Get rid of the smell. That was my job today. I'm standing in the suite of a Four Seasons with my nose pinched, trying to decipher what this smell is so that I can figure out how the hell I'm going to get rid of it. The woman who just barked at me is Sophie. She's the assistant to the assistant of Lucy Ridley, one of the hot new horror actresses that is staying in this room tonight. The other suites are booked, so it's my sworn duty to ensure that this rank funk is dead before Lucy walks into her room in 45 minutes. What the hell is that smell? Good God, that is horrific. I called the front desk, told them that there was a rather intense musk in room 327, and was it possible to switch suites? They said there was not any other rooms available. I knew that already. Sophie had tried to switch rooms, and when that road closed, she handed me the wheel. I tried to emphasize how grotesque this evil essence was. They asked me to describe the smell. I said it was as if someone had blended diarrhea and vomit. There was a pause on the other end. I'm fairly certain the front desk associate had briefly become nauseous, which did grant me a quick sense of victory, knowing I was not the only one in the middle of this intolerable incense. They said they would be sending someone up shortly. Excluding the funk, this room was phenomenal. It was roughly 3 times the size of my apartment, which I was sharing with 2 other people, one of which tried to make ketamine in the kitchen last weekend. Needless to say, I needed this job so I could get away from the ketamine cooks ruining my home decor. I was combing the suite, letting my nose guide me. Anytime I thought I was getting warmer to the smell's origin, it would gain traction from another direction. I truly had no idea what or where this was coming from. Worse than the smell was my hunger. I had just spent the past 5 minutes creating a wondrous display of snacks for Lucy. Protein bars, fresh fruit, pastries, seaweed, none of which I could have. It was reserved for the talent, which meant it would not get eaten and thus completely wasted. Maybe I could have 1 grape. Nobody would notice 1 grape, right? I took 1 step toward the snack station and there was a knock on the door. Eureka! It was a maintenance man. He had a cowboy belt of funk killers, sprays, oils, candles. As soon as he walked in, his eyes widened, looking like someone had just squeezed a delicate region under his equator. He stopped in his tracks. I know, I said. He started copying my route, walking throughout the suite, trying to gauge where it came from. It was identical. He even did the stop, start, spin move that I did as soon as I entered the living room from the kitchen. He displayed his web of odor cancelers. I nodded, smiled, and then reiterated that I needed a solution to get rid of the smell. I explained to him, this room is for a famous actress. If it smells like this when she gets here, it won't be good publicity. You know what I mean? He nodded. Actually, it was more like a bow of shame. Did he make this smell? Either way, he seemed nervous, and then he told me, I think you should speak with management. When he said that, he wasn't even making eye contact. I told him I had spoken with management and they were the ones who sent him here. He told me that wasn't management. This is management. He held out a card. It was red velvet colored with a black rim and heavy, like a Platinum Express Amex card. Not that I owned one, but I had used one to buy Christmas gifts for my boss's kids on multiple occasions. The card had a phone number with the Four Seasons logo in the top right corner. It looked exclusive, very eyes wide shutty. A mansion-sized orgy would really spruce up my day. I dialed the number. Someone picked up. Yes, the voice was muffled, as if he was speaking through some kind of audio filter. Picture the scream voice, but if he was a really nervous soccer dad. Hi, maintenance gave me this number. There is a smell in room 327. Can you help? Pause. Several seconds worth. Then finally they asked me, how would you describe the smell in 1 word? It immediately came to mind, the 1 word. I was surprised how obvious it was, considering English had never been my strong suit, hence the desire to work in film. So I told him, Rancid. There was another pause, long enough that I needed to say hello twice before I finally got a response from the other end. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't breathe. I was standing in the hallway. One of the lights was flickering in and out. The smell was too much from inside the room. How could the Four Seasons operate like this? Weren't they the creme de la creme of hospitality? I was trying to decide which current rock star could produce an odor so foul. Who was in town this weekend? Rod Stewart? Oh, Rod, say it ain't so. My mother loved Rod Stewart. My father, too. Actually, my father loved Rod too much, if you know what I'm saying. He caused the eventual downfall of their promised eternal bliss. Perhaps he was behind this unholy act as well. This is what happens when you're living in a state of perpetual waking life. You start to think that the reason behind all of your problems is Rod Stewart. I was leaning against the wall. All I wanted to do was nap. I was running on fumes. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night. This 96-hour press blitz for a new horror movie called Sleep Tight had completely consumed my life. The amount of scheduling that goes into this blitz is jaw-dropping. So much effort for such brief, inconsequential, rapid-fire exchanges between two people who have to pretend to be interested in the other person. It's an art form. It really is. Sitting across from someone and seeming truly engaged with what they're telling you, it's why my life has to be behind camera. I can only fake it for so long. The elevator door opened. He was barefoot with a tuxedo. Maybe I truly was dreaming. This was too much. If all denim was a Canadian tuxedo, what was this? He was short, barely 5 feet, with a goatee, tiny, dark brown, thick-rimmed glasses. I was no longer consumed with dread over this smell. This concoction of a man was now my obsession. Who, what, where, when, how was he? I had to know it all. He approached me cautiously, like a wolf stumbling upon a carcass in the wilderness. Did you call about the smell? I just nodded. I was transfixed. It wasn't a sexual thing, not at first. It was more that I was now almost certain that this was a dream. Similar to Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut. Granted, I had just watched that movie for the 10th time last week. The similarities were starting to pile up. If this man says that the magic word is Fidelio, I'm going to pass out. He held out a red bandana. I stared down at it, confused, intrigued, nauseous, aroused. It's clean, he said. This man was an algorithm of intoxication. Letting me know that the red bandana was clean was somewhere around the 25th most intriguing thing about this moment. I took it. He wrapped his own red bandana around his face, acting as a mask. Then he opened the door. He stood back at first, as if the light from inside the room would burn his bare foot. I wrapped the bandana around my own face. It took a little adjusting to get it situated. It had been a minute since I dressed like a Ninja Turtle while sober. He delicately walked inside. His eyes were darting up, down, side to side. He clung to the walls. I took off my heels. I wanted to live inside his lack of shoes. The carpet was so cozy they made my eyes heavy. Everything inside this suite was nap-worthy. Even the floor. I desperately needed another coffee. He got to the spin zone, the precise point where me and then the maintenance man had stopped, spun, and then turned around. The nexus of the smell, as it were. He began to very slowly lower his bandana. As soon as his nose hit the air, he quickly lifted it back up and slid towards the wall. His eyes closed and his face turned. He looked devastating and dashing all at once. Was I in love with this man? I needed sleep, and to stop watching Stanley Kubrick movies at 1 a.m. He grabbed my hand and whisked me back to the hallway. Were we about to make love? See an opera? Both? It turned out to be neither. He closed the door tightly and explained the origins of the odor by asking me one simple question. Do you believe in the paranormal? There was now a decent chance that I would not be able to eradicate this smell by the time Lucy Ridley showed up, which meant that a low-hanging head would have to roll. My low-hanging head, as it were, since it was the lowest hanging head on the chopping block. But this tiny tuxedo-goated man had just asked me if I believed in the paranormal. Regardless of where this day goes, I would now have a story to tell for the rest of my life that might make it worth it. As someone who was never able to fake it for too long, I can proudly say I successfully stopped myself from laughing and answered his question in earnest by stating, "No, madam," he said, taking a seductive step closer to me. "That is about to change." His office felt like a bunker. It was tiny. The walls were made of mahogany. There were photos of mountains. A hammer was hung onto the wall like a trophy. We had taken the elevator down to the basement of the hotel. It was tucked into the corner, like a dog that had to be continually put on timeout. He opened his safe. The fact that he had a safe only added to the excitement of the atmosphere. What would he be pulling out of that safe? Apparently sleep deprivation makes me horny. I needed a boyfriend. Or at the very least a hookup with clean bed sheets. That would have to wait, because he took out a book, a large red velvet book, and placed it on his desk. "This, my dear, is a timeline of the smell." The beginning of this timeline seemed to go back quite a ways. The initial pages he showed me were in black and white. Each photo had dates. The first one was 1948. Her name was Liza. He told me the story of Liza. She was a maid for the hotel. Little is known about her backstory, where she came from, who she came from. On October 30th, 1948, Liza hung herself inside room 327 for reasons that have never and may never be fully understood. Since then, there have been 6 more suicides in this hotel, all inside room 327, to which he added, "There's more." More? How could there be more than that? I stopped him. Why wasn't this a bigger story? How is this hotel still in business? How can they let anyone stay in room 327? His explanation had a twisted logic. The people who have hung themselves there were the help. The help? The way he said it. The words just hung there, like this hammer on the wall. Poor, insignificant people killing themselves was no reason for business to shut down, especially in Tinseltown, where the stars of stars come to shine brightest. He would explain the circumstances of each report. Without fail, they all seemed to be the same. The satanic scent, as he classified it, has emerged precisely every 13 years. At which point someone who worked for the hotel would discover the smell, become consumed with it until they were driven mad. Mad to the point of, he couldn't say the word. Every 13 years. I tried crunching the numbers. I could barely do math when I wasn't sleep deprived and horny, but I persevered. If that was true, if it truly was every 13 years, then the smell was right on time. Today was, you guessed it, the eve of Halloween, October 30th. Lucy Ridley would be here in 13 minutes. 13. I emphasized that I did not mean to be insensitive, but since it only affects the help, would Lucy be safe to stay there? "Yes," he said. "My concern is for the help." I tried to sidestep my brief display of complete lack of humanity by turning the tables onto him. "Aren't you morally obligated to tell people who work here about the smell?" "We do," he said. "And they need the work." Oof. That stung. The jobs I've had that I took in my life simply because I needed the work. There were a lot of people in this town desperately trying to just get by. That goes for every town, I supposed. Minimal paycheck to minimal paycheck. Not only trying to support themselves, but also their families. Would you risk it? If you absolutely had to get a job? Even hearing it out loud? Seeing it displayed in front of me, even if I had a part of me that thought, well, this can't really be true, can it? I checked my watch again. It still said 13 minutes. That seemed odd. My watch was ticking. Maybe time tends to slow down during despair. Before I left the bunker, I had to know. What's up with the hammer? He took a deep breath, turned around, stared at it, and said, "That's in case Liza shows up." We were standing outside of room 327. What was the protocol for a moment like this? Does he tip me over, plant a big kiss on my lips, then lean me upright and say, "It'll be okay, babe"? I waited for him to say something, to give instructions, to provide some semblance of reassurance and safety. Finally, I asked him, "What now?" He continued staring at the room number as he said it. "Pray that she no longer feels compelled by her time in eternal damnation to spend her days of despair torturing the lives of the living. Pray that prayers work." I would have preferred the kiss. He took out the hammer and held it out towards me. What am I supposed to do with that? He gave me the history of the hammer. The only person who ever survived Liza's wrath was a janitor in 1968. He saw her face in the shadows, took out this hammer, and she faded back into darkness. So we keep this hammer for anyone who is brave enough to face her. He turned his hand, displaying the hammer in a more heroic light. I took it. It was heavy. "May Liza have mercy on your soul." He began to walk away. I yelled out for him. He turned. "Will I ever see you again?" "Let us pray, my dear, that the answer is no." The elevator door opened. He walked inside. The door closed. I was now standing in the hallway, alone. I checked my watch. It still said 13 minutes, yet my watch continued to tick. That light above me started flickering again. There's no way in hell I was going back into. "I'm in room 327. "What the hell?" I blinked and was now back inside the room, squarely in the middle of the suite. It was now dark outside. My toes felt funny. I looked down. The carpet was different. It was yellow, shaggy. I looked up. The entire room was odd, retro, funky, Brooklyn. A song played on the radio. It was very old, clearly from another era, decades before Rod Stewart made my parents get divorced.
"In the silence of night, I wander through the trees. These shadows, they remind a world that used to be. Mother Nature's please forgive, for we tread on hollow ground. Each step feels like a whisper as the echoes wrap around."
Why was that playing? There was now a very old-looking radio where the TV used to be, playing this song, this haunting song that I inexplicably knew the lyrics to. My dress felt tight. I tried to adjust it and realized this was not my dress. What the hell was I wearing? I sprinted to the mirror. It was a drab, dreary, gray maid's outfit. That looked shockingly similar to the maid's outfit I once wore on Halloween to try and spice up the love life of the guy I was seeing back then. Grayson the ginger. My maid outfit did not work. He ignored me and opted to make out with a girl who was dressed as a sexy ghostbuster, which felt disrespectful on so many levels. I turned around with my hammer raised. What the hell was that? Who the hell was that? Where the hell was that? It felt close. Shower curtain. "Liza, I got no beef with you, girl. I understand the plight of the working woman. Girl power, am I right?" I tore open the shower curtain. Empty. I could barely breathe. It felt closer. I looked up towards the vent. I stood up on the toilet, trying to inch my ear towards the direction I thought it might be coming from. No such luck. But then I heard it again. It was coming from inside this room, but where the hell could it be? Tap, tap, tap. I looked down. We're coming from inside the toilet. It was so deep I could see lines forming on the toilet lid. I leapt off towards the wall and stood once again with my hammer raised up into the air. And then, very, very slowly, the toilet lid began to raise. Eyes. red eyes peeking out from inside of the toilet. I dropped the hammer. My hands were shaking. My legs were quaking. I was too scared to move. The eye squinted, and then the face kept raising. I could see her now. Pale, white skin, long, stringy black hair, yellow, crooked teeth. She was biting down so hard that foam was beginning to leak out of her mouth like bile, spilling out onto the bathroom tiles, covering them in light green pea soup-colored ooze. I could smell it. I could smell whatever that was. The evil essence was invading the air all around me, and I could hardly breathe. I tried to reason with her. It, whatever that was, hiding in the toilet, so I softly whispered her name. Liza? Her smile went away. Her eyes went white. She seemed frozen. The radio turned off. It was now completely silent. I took one step forward. Liza? Her scream nearly made my eardrums explode. Her neck extended all the way up towards the ceiling as her eyes hung from their sockets and began spitting blood out of their pupils. Her stringy black hair extended and wrapped around my legs, squeezing like jellyfish. The water underneath her body shot out, covering the entire bathroom in dark brown liquid, creating a tsunami of turds. I covered my eyes and mouth, screamed as loud as I could, turned over onto my back, trying to shield myself from the horror splashing down onto me. I reached out for the hammer. I knew it was close. I felt the tip, grabbed the handle, swung it through the hair that had been pulling me closer to the toilet, while Liza's purple neck grew tentacles, veiny, wavy, pulsating tentacles. My bare foot was now inches from the toilet when I was finally able to unhook myself with one connecting swing of the hammer. Liza screamed. Her face swung down right in front of mine. When she opened her mouth, I could see another tsunami of turds flowing towards me like a river of slime. I reared back with my hammer, and with every ounce of my soul, I drove it right into Liza's left eye. Her grips loosened, and I slid backwards as her entire body began spitting wildly out of control. The whole bathroom was now shaking while fragments of excrement spewed out, covering every inch of the room. I turned, got to my knees, slip-sliding all over this outhouse from hell, opened the door, and spilled out into the living room. As soon as my face hit the ground, I could feel it. The rug. The rug had changed. My head bounced up. The room. The room had gone back to normal. It was daylight. No more radio. There was a TV. Snacks? So many snacks. Delicious, overpriced snacks that would go to waste. Oh my God, it worked. I survived. I had killed Liza. I sprang up to my knees and extended my fist toward the air in pure ecstasy. I did it! I killed her! My euphoria was quickly sabotaged by the sinking suspicion that I was not alone. There was a looming presence in this room with me. I opened my eyes. Standing in the room with me, Sophie, who was the assistant to Samantha. Samantha, who was the assistant to Lucy. And Lucy, along with Lucy's publicist, agent, and manager. Oh, and also Lucy's boyfriend, Daniel Coburn, one of the hottest and most in-demand actors alive right now. 7 people, all standing there in total shock, staring at me, holding their noses. I looked at the bathroom, which was covered in shit. I turned back to the crowd of people all staring at me and said, It wasn't me.
If the night gets too heavy, will you hold me close, my friend? If the night feels too heavy, remember the light will mend. The stars are flickering low, like hopes that start to fade, and this earth feels so cold as the dreams begin to shake. Each flower that once bloomed, now a memory so clear, yet I find strength in knowing that you are ever near.